All right, people, welcome back to Just Bet TV, the show where we break down the biggest football moments and give you all the insights you need to make smarter bets. I'm your host and still an Arsenal supporter, Jordan Fort. Sharp. Sharp, we're not reaching to you today.
And I'm Shav.
All right, so obviously, that's a little precursor to what is going to come in. Huh? Everybody want to laugh after it, but that's fine. It's fine. Before we get into the games, we're talking about NBA, we're talking about World Cup qualifiers, and we're going to be talking about Champions League.
And the Carabao
Obviously,
Cup.
the Carabao Cup Final
Right.
between Arsenal and Manchester City.
But before we get into that though, Jordan, let's talk about the payout that punters receive for Champions League only.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 25.7 million. You heard right. Just for Champions League only, 25.7 million. So it keep on increasing. So big up the punters. We know your pocket's happy on that one.
They were active in the Champions League. All right, so we can start breaking down the Champions League.
Yeah, let's see the matches that put the money in the pocket.
Yeah. Second leg, of course, those were played on Wednesday. We never talked about those matches.
Right.
And some interesting results to say the least. Of course, we always say we're gonna make our predictions the week before, and then we'll come back the next week.
Right.
And we'll compare notes and we'll see, who chat rubbish, and who was spot on, and so on and so forth. The Barcelona match now versus Newcastle.
Lucky for us, we got this one right. We predicted goals.
We did predict goals, and I thought that Barcelona was going to swamp Newcastle. I never saw 7-2, I must admit. 7-2, by the way, gave them 8-3 on aggregate because, it was 1-1 from the first leg. And I think the first leg probably fooled some people because, remember, Newcastle almost won that first leg.
Almost.
They were hanging on until the dying moment when Barcelona equalized. But in that second leg, I always knew that going back to the Camp Nou, going back to Spain for Newcastle, was always going to be very tricky. And I just felt like the attacking firepower that Barcelona has was going to prove too much, and it played out. I mean, remember, it was 2-2 in I think before 20 minutes maybe, or just after 20 minutes.
Right.
And then 3-2 is what the first half ended in favor of Barca.
Right.
So at that point, it was still a game.
It was still a game. Newcastle was still in it at
But
that point.
The second half, no chance.
No.
Possession.
No, that's where everything turned up.
Yeah, man.
Barcelona came out, blood in their eyes, and decided that they're gonna stamp their class.
Too much firepower.
Too much
attacking firepower. So Barca through Tottenham. The less said about Tottenham, the better for their fans. But I'll give more hope for them.
Yes.
3-2 win over Atletico.
Yeah, because truth be told, Jordan, a 3-2 loss is not as bad as a 7-2. And we expected that. Tottenham has not been playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, but kudos to them on aggregate. It ended on what? 7-5?
Yeah, they lost 7-5.
It's not that bad.
And winning on the day, well, I thought would have given them confidence. They went on to lose in their next league game, but they won on the day, so at least they gave their fans a little bit.
A glimmer of hope.
A glimmer, because Atletico completely dominated them in the first leg. And some madness happened in that first leg because the Tottenham interim coach, Tudor, he decided to start a young goalkeeper instead of his regular goalkeeper. And when the mistakes started to pile up, he just decided to have to take him off.
Yeah, that was a bit of an amateur move to me.
Yeah, I think before 20 minutes, he had to withdraw the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean,
and put back the regular goalkeeper in the goal. That was.
Yeah, but Jordan, let's give Tottenham grace. They came out, they fought. They didn't just roll over and die.
At least
let's give them a little round of applause for that. But sadly, their run has ended and it's come to an end. But let's talk about Liverpool.
Yeah, what a game. I thought that this Liverpool game was going to be the one that probably you could go with the upset and go with Galatasaray winning at Anfield.
Because I think that was our prediction.
Yeah,
that was our prediction.
I
We got that one wrong.
Yeah, definitely. We're very, very, very wrong. Apologies to the Liverpool fans, because Liverpool turned up at Anfield 4-0, and it was just outclassing Galatasaray. Galatasaray couldn't even touch the ball.
Yeah, it was their best performance yet. I mean, special kudos to Mo Salah. I mean, he showed up. Ekitike has been consistent.
Yep.
Sabasly.
Yeah, Soboslai is the man for Liverpool where
Man.
Arne Slot can put him anywhere on that field and he's going to
And
deliver.
he's going to deliver.
Gravenberch getting on the score sheet as well. So that was a big performance from Liverpool. And I guess you can say little warning to the rest of the sides in Europe. But PSG is up next for them.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one.
And trust me, that PSG team, not just saying it because they're the reigning champions,
but they do have
the way they've been playing.
Power.
Trust me, man, that team is not a normal team, Sean.
I agree.
It's not a normal team. The next team we're going to talk about, though, is probably the team I think that, in terms of just firepower on paper,
right,
is the team that I think matches or has even more than the PSG, and that's Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich, unstoppable, finishing the job with a 4-1 win and a 10-2 victory over Atalanta.
Okay.
For Atalanta.
But I'm looking in the camera now and I'm saying this, Harry Kane, if you are watching this, you are the best striker in the world. I'm giving it to him. Did you see that goal, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, and I said best striker in the world, but then he's so versatile. He can drop deep and start pinging passes all over the park. But trust me, he produces some world class
goals.
We know that he has that reputation, and the firepower and the pace Bayern has in attack, the firepower, the accuracy with Harry Kane. I mean, you're talking about people like Serge Gnabry and Olise and
Walipa pace. And let's not forget the flair.
Yeah.
Diaz.
Luis Diaz.
Diaz.
But trust me, they're hard to contain when they're in full flight. This Bayern team, the best you can hope for against Bayern is them having an off day.
Right.
Or you keep them quiet for as long as possible.
Yeah, and funny enough, I think major credit to Vincent Kompany.
Yeah.
He has molded this team into this machine that they are. I mean, I was kind of worried when he was appointed because, he doesn't have that big illustrious career, but he has gone there and he has done wonderful things.
I was that was out of left field for me. He's surprised with how he was doing with Burnley and then gets appointed to Bayern Munich.
Right.
Never really made sense to me at the time. It makes sense now, right?
It really does.
Bayern fans are very happy at the moment. But it's a heavyweight showdown. They're going into
No, that is fit for a final.
Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich. Wow. As you said, that could easily be the final.
That could easily be the final.
And then you wonder now how Real Madrid react because you're coming off a two-legged tie with Manchester City.
Right.
A tie which could also be the final.
Yeah, I agree.
Two powerhouses in Europe. And then now, you're going into to face a Bayern Munich with such firepower. I think this is going to be a completely different proposition for Madrid than the City
encounter. I agree.
Because I think City with Guardiola at the helm and a lot more strategic and a lot more methodical in how they try to break down teams. But this Bayern team is just
raw talent.
Active. And Madrid likes to play on the counter. So it played into their hands when City would control possession in their half.
Right.
And then once they won it back, they could release somebody like a Vini with his pace, or they could release, in some cases, it was Valverde actually, in the first leg against City, release somebody like a Valverde. One of the goals they scored was literally an assist from Courtois. It was Courtois to Valverde goal in less than 5 seconds. Yeah. So that's how they like to play. But the problem is, Bayern also has that pace.
That's it.
So it could be up and down, and they're lethal.
No, that one is gonna be hard to call.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich, blockbuster, another one.
Yeah, I'm gonna hear what you call that. But over to the Premier League, Brighton continued their impressive form, 2-1 win over Liverpool.
Big up Danny Welbeck, a former United man, every time.
Former Arsenal man. Former Arsenal and United man, now at Brighton. He scored the brace, 2-1 over Liverpool. Again, we're just talking about Liverpool and singing their praises in the Champions League. And then they come back and lose 2-1 to Brighton in the Premier League. Brighton boosting their European ambitions, could say, genuine ambitions for them. For Liverpool, another damaging loss, and it's a tight race for Champions League qualification. You start to think for Liverpool. Obviously, they're still in the Champions League.
Right.
So they can qualify by winning the Champions League.
That's the only hope I'm seeing at this point, Jordan.
You don't think they'll finish?
No, based on how they're moving in the Premier League, they're not consistent enough, and other teams want it just as bad.
And it's hard to disagree with you, Shav. You know why? Because I would say that the way they're playing in Europe is probably going to spur them on in England, but it hasn't been the
But
case.
it hasn't been the case.
I mean, you destroy Galatasaray 4-0 and then you lose to Brighton.
Right.
You know? So, I don't know. That
it's looking dim. It's looking dim.
I don't see them winning the Champions League.
Well, I think that's their only hope.
But I think they'll get it together. I think they'll get it together in England, and I think they'll be in the top 5.
Well, when we're mentioning getting it together, Manchester United were held to a 2-2 draw with Bournemouth. This one, I think my team was robbed. You know, I'm just gonna go and say it out there. It was very controversial.
Yeah.
Harry Maguire got a red card for fouling someone in the penalty box. But funny enough, Jordan, Bournemouth fouled Amad Diallo the same way, and we didn't get a penalty.
I saw that, and I thought that Bournemouth situation would have been overturned by VAR. But funny enough, the ref was right there when Diallo got pushed. You know, he was literally right there, and he said no foul. And I thought that's why VAR decided not to try to overrule the ref, because the ref said, well, he was right there, he saw everything play out. He thought it was a foul. I thought it was a foul, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was
I thought
clear.
They should have been given a penalty for that.
Yeah.
So I'd say tough luck to Manchester United. I don't have to say that. I don't like. I don't like to say that, but
they got a point from the encounter, which still kept them in 3rd place. So that's good. That's good enough.
Yeah, and Everton, statement performance against Chelsea. Again, Chelsea is the other team now that some serious questions are being raised about this Chelsea team. 3-0 Everton.
To Everton.
No,
to Everton. I would have never guessed that one. Yeah. You know, funny enough, I had this match on my ticket.
Yeah.
This was the one that burst it.
I have a better score than Brace and Iliman Jai. Iliman Jai is one of those streets won't forget. I'm not trying to walk around. Trust me, he just have he has these moments. These moments of brilliance. This Iliman Jai player for Everton.
When he shows up,
trust me, man. And that finish, I think even Rossina said it, Chelsea coach said it after the game, that Iliman Jai finish for the 3rd goal in that Everton win was spectacular.
Yeah.
Spectacular. Yeah. But Chelsea though, Chelsea 4th straight loss. So the pressure is now mounting on Liam Rossina. And I mean, you know, I kind of feel for him. You know, he was thrown into a pressure cooker situation when they fired the previous coach, but they started well.
They did.
When he came in.
Yeah.
But I mean, since that they've been given a reality check, and trust me, that check never bounced. Never bounced. Check has hit hard.
I mean, Jordan, I don't mind, you know. The less they perform, the better it is for Manchester United.
Well, we know that.
Yes.
But you want to keep that position.
I want to keep that. Yeah, man. Champions League misses us. But as it relates to pressure, let's talk about Tottenham. Oh my.
That's some serious pressure.
Yeah, man. That's what we call serious pressure. On
Shocking
the cusp of relegation,
3-0 defeat to Nottingham Forest. But by the way, Tottenham and Nottingham Forest, I don't know, they're kind of intertwined in terms of their fortunes, because obviously Ange Postecoglou, Tottenham's coach, who took them to the promised land in the Europa League.
True.
Went to Forest, then got fired from Forest, and then Spurs have since fired the manager who replaced him, and now they've brought in Tudor, and he's having a horrid time. And bumped out of the Champions League. Obviously, as we said, they fought against Atletico Madrid. They won the second leg 3-2. But I don't know. They have done so many questionable things. This Tottenham team, from management to board level to coach to players. I don't know. Right now, do you sack another coach? If you sack another coach now, a coach comes in now with 7-8 games left to play.
Right.
How much can that new coach really do?
And that's the funny thing, because this downfall has to be studied. I haven't seen a downfall like this since Leicester City being relegated. So this is something absurd to me. But I mean, their performance over the weekend, Jordan, that just signifies how poor they are.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people are missing that even though they won the Europa League last year, they still struggled in the Premier League.
They did.
They were way down in the bottom half, and at one stage it was Spurs and United. Sorry to bring this up. Looking like they're in a relegation battle.
Right.
Last season in the Premier League. Right? So it's actually not new for Spurs, because they had these same issues last season. So they've been having this issue. They masked it by winning in Europe, and now the cracks are beginning to open up.
Yeah. So I guess we can be fair to say that we saw the signs,
Yeah.
but now it's just coming to reality.
Yeah. Indeed,
All right, fair enough.
Indeed.
And last but not least,
Oh,
Jordan.
We can skip this part?
No, I've been waiting for this one. The
skip this-
Carabao Cup
skip this part,
Final. Jordan, I'll let you take this one. I mean, at least I can win something.
I took a deep breath after the result. Oh, by the way, sorry. For those who may not know, Manchester City won 2-0 over Arsenal in the Carabao Cup Final. 2 goals from Nico O'Reilly. A Mancunian, I think. Mancunian as well.
Yes, he's coming from the academy. Right.
Yeah, so, fairy tale story or whatever for Manchester City. For Pep Guardiola. They've been struggling, Manchester City. They haven't been as fluent as they wanted to. And, of course, slipping in the league. And Arsenal now 9 points ahead. City still have a game in hand. City still have to play Arsenal, obviously. So, that can change. But they've been slipping. Of course, they were bumped out of the Champions League by Real Madrid. So they wanted this.
They really
wanted this. Arsenal, on the other hand, Arsenal, bumping out Bayer Leverkusen, been rolling, so to speak, in the league as well. So it's all signs. I said it last week. You told me Arsenal was in trouble. I didn't believe you.
I told you.
I don't know what kind of clairvoyance, I don't know what kind of sorcery you finished this up, but you knew Arsenal was in trouble. I don't know how. But I couldn't see a world where Arsenal were going to give up a game like this in the fashion that they did. Which is what hurt me the most.
Right, because what I want to say to you, as an Arsenal fan, Jordan, what was going through the coach's mind when he put Kepa in goal over the original?
It's just a matter of, I guess, rewarding the consistency of Kepa throughout the Carabao Cup. Because, and this is something Wenger did as well when he was Arsenal coach, is he had a keeper for the cup games versus a keeper for the league games. David Raya is the league keeper, and he keeps in every game. Kepa was keeping in the Carabao Cup.
Right.
That was his opportunity to keep. Now, I guess we can overanalyze things after the fact and say, wrong decision, you should have put David Raya in the goal, even though it was Kepa who was keeping all this time and brought it to the final. But City had Trafford in goal. City never used Donnarumma.
That's true.
They didn't. Well. So if City had lost, would we be saying, boy, Pep make a mistake, he should have start Donnarumma, even though Trafford was going to be his go-to keeper for the cup game? Because remember, when you are balancing that many competitions, you start to...
You need the rotation.
You rotate one, but I mean, it's a goalkeeper, but you also want to keep players happy.
True.
So, even though you might say, it's a goalkeeper, it's not expending a lot of energy, you don't need to rotate a goalkeeper, which is true, but you're also trying to keep all of your squad happy and try to keep everybody engaged. Because you never know, you may need to call upon Kepa in a big game. What if you need to call upon Kepa in a Champions League final?
Yeah, I agree.
David Raya could get injured. So I know we want to overanalyze it after the fact. And there's a big mistake by Kepa, a couple mistakes by the way, that when he chased out of the box and brought down Doku, I think it was who was onrushing at the time. And,
right.
I don't know, I was lucky probably to escape any further punishment. And then, that first goal, I think changed the game because, funny enough, in the first half, I think both teams were, still kind of not wanting to give too much away.
Yeah, it was pretty even in the first half.
It was pretty even. You could tell. I mean, it's the imprint of both managers was on the game. Arteta is an understudy, hate that word, but an understudy of Pep. So Pep knows what's going through Arteta's mind. Arteta knows what's going through Pep's mind.
Right.
And that's why they set the teams up the way they did. They never wanted to concede much, right? Arsenal, I thought, though, there was a big chance for Havertz. And if he had scored that differently,
it would have been different. Right, I agree.
But having said that, though, the second half, City came out, dominated. I think we're all over Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I think deserved their advantage. And then they went on to win 2-0. As I said, fairy tale story for Nico O'Reilly. And then one thing I was upset about, though, Brian Cherky.
Oh.
That exhibition in the game.
Very disrespectful. Very disrespectful.
And after the game, I don't know if you saw, Antoine Semenyo did an interview on Sky Sports where he said, like he was just running rings around in Cafe. And I said, them man are fun.
Yeah, and that goes to my next point. In terms of a psychological standpoint, what do you think that this means for Arsenal battling another final and Manchester City adding another one because if I'm not mistaken, this is number 5 for Pep in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, and I think and Arsenal, by the way, the Carabao Cup has just been a bogey cup for Arsenal. I don't know why.
Okay.
I know Arsenal has won the FA Cup countless times, but the Carabao Cup, for whatever reason, it's just like every time they get into the Carabao Cup final or they get knocked out before the final, it always provides a challenge for Arsenal. But I don't think that it is going to have the effect that most people think it will have. I think most people think that no, this is going to damper Arsenal's confidence going for the league title. But I think the opposite. I think it's actually going to spur Arsenal on even more to prove the doubters wrong and to ensure that they maintain the momentum domestically and in the Champions League. And of course, Arsenal still in the FA Cup. So, they're playing for 3 trophies, really.
Right.
It was 4 before. And it might be a blessing in disguise because, the amount of pressure that it feels like every game is a final.
Right.
You lose this one now. Now you know as a group what it is like to go into a big game against a big team. You make a few blunders. You understand how it costs you. Now you have that kind of advantage of what you now need to avoid doing throughout the rest of the season. That's how I think.
Yeah. But on my view, how I see it for Manchester City is that they now get that boost of confidence that they are better than Arsenal. Because in order for them to actually chase you guys, they have to believe that. Because their results prior to coming into this final, it wasn't good. So now they're saying that, now they're saying that, hey, we can really beat these guys. And you know that you have them back in the Premier League, which is going to be the main decider.
Yeah, I think Arsenal, if Arsenal just avoids defeat to City in the Premier League, then I think it's smooth sailing.
I agree. So I guess that wraps up the Carabao Cup. I'm really sorry that you didn't get a trophy, but I'm sure you will get the Premier League.
3 more to play for.
3 more to play for.
Remember that number 3. That number 3 is very important.
Right. All right, Jordan, we're always talking about football, but this week we're going to do something different. Let's talk about the NBA because this week we have a hot match. Oklahoma City versus the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, and I can't wait for that game. Wednesday, March 25. And it's a big game because both teams are at the top of their conferences. And, could say it's a finals preview. I don't want to start jumping the gun yet. But, it's a very, very interesting match. Of course, you top your conference. Right. Western for Oklahoma City, Eastern for Boston. And you get home court advantage throughout the conference series. And then if you have the best record in the league, then you get home court advantage throughout the entire playoff.
And I know both teams want that.
Oh yes, because that can be a big, big deciding factor in who wins the ring at the end of the season. Oklahoma City have been the NBA's pace setters from the opening night in October, holding the number 1 spot in the Western Conference and the league overall for the entire season. But despite the consistency, margins for error might be shrinking, Charles.
Yes.
Because guess what? In their 15 total losses, a striking 4 have come against one team.
And who is that? Spurs.
It's not like I hear it.
No. I'm a huge fan,
Okay.
But Spurs have them tickets.
Yeah, they have, because they've won the season series 4-1. SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP, didn't play in one of those games,
Right.
So, you put a little asterisk beside that. But Spurs, with Wemby, with De'Aaron Fox,
we only lost
Castle,
what? 2 times.
They've been running them hot, and OKC needs to find a way around them. But for this game, though, I really do think that OKC probably has the edge in this game, only because, the Celtics have been playing extremely well. But the difference with the Celtics, for me, is that with the return of Jason Tatum, it adds another dimension now of kind of reintegrating a superstar level talent back into the team.
Squad, right?
And that can prove tricky because without him, Jaylen Brown was running the show. He's in the MVP conversation. When Jason Tatum is fit and healthy, nobody really looks at Jaylen Brown as an MVP candidate.
No, he's the supporting cast.
Exactly. Yeah. He's the running mate. He's the Robin to the Batman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Tatum is like the man. Even though a lot of people, I'm not saying this to kind of downplay Jaylen Brown.
No, we can't do that.
But the fact of the matter is people just see it as Jason Tatum's team, right? So when he went down last season, it was like, okay, well, over for Boston.
Right, because he was out for what, 10 months?
10 months. 10 months with the ruptured Achilles, and he's back and he's really looking good. But at the same time, you still need to get back into the big game shape.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
That's
because he got back into shaping. But now when you're going to play a team like OKC,
you need to be 100%.
You need to be 100%. He's not going to be 100%. So I think that might play a role. OKC will want to make the win in this. Will want to make a statement win in this game because they know that Boston will be gunning for them. And I think the difference is with OKC is that they've been missing J-Dub, Jalen Williams,
right?
For a string of games. They've held it together. Obviously, they have the MVP. They're the best player in the league.
True.
But
they might need him for this one.
Yeah, he's a big miss. He's been a big miss for them. But again, though, I still do think that OKC has the edge in this one.
And it doesn't matter Boston being home, because with that home court advantage, you get that extra boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It plays a role for sure.
Right.
Home court advantage is a big deal in sports and in the NBA. But I'm still gonna say OKC go into their home territory and take it. Yeah.
Do you think it will be a blowout or a close match?
Not a blowout. I don't see it being a blowout. I think it will be a close match.
I think a close match.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And based on the record, I think that Boston has a good record at home, even though they lost their last game. But I think that this one is more important to them because they need to win to keep the pressure on getting that number one seed.
Yeah, because Detroit it's between them and Detroit.
Right.
Battling for that number one seed. Detroit has lost Cade Cunningham, their best player, another MVP candidate. And but for them, that's a big blow because looking at home court throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs, and I'm sure, even speaking about Detroit and speaking about Cade Cunningham, we kind of have to give them their kudos, the rise that we've seen from Detroit because, just a few seasons ago, they were a lottery team. It was 14-68 was the record, something like that.
Over 20 straight losses, bro.
Yeah, and they've steadily improved to now become one of the best teams in the league overall and top 2 in the Eastern Conference. Big kudos to Detroit Pistons.
Jordan, why does this game feel like a playoff preview?
Yeah, it could be the finals preview because, of course, the NBA is peculiar in this way. If you're in the Eastern Conference, you don't meet a team in the Western Conference in the playoff until you reach the final. So you can't play another Western Conference team. So this could very well be a preview of the finals, as I said, of the NBA finals. And, both teams are elite defensively, thrive in late game execution, and both teams are looking for the win to boost their chances of topping the standings in their respective conferences. And for Detroit, I think it's even more important because you're missing Cade Cunningham, who has a collapsed lung, unfortunately.
Right.
Picked up that injury in a game, and now his timeline for return is uncertain at this stage.
Right. So that means Boston needs to keep the pressure on them because of their uncertainty.
Yeah. So because Boston knows that Detroit missing Cade, and obviously OKC want to keep San Antonio at arm's length in terms of taking over that number one seed. I think OKC will clinch a number one seed, but of course you can't discount what Spurs has been doing with Wemby and the cast this year. But yeah, it could be a finals preview, and I think for that reason we are going to see a kind of blockbuster matchup in the way these two teams execute on the night.
So are you predicting a high score match or a very cagey defensive type?
No, I think it will be. I think both teams will probably score over 110 points. Kind of par for the course in the NBA these days with the way the rules are, with the way these teams shoot the ball. Both these teams shoot the ball very well, even though they're very good defensively. They both shoot the ball very well. They have assassins, they have snipers all over the court, both of the teams. And so I expect that both teams will score over 110 points. But as I said, I think OKC goes into Boston and takes it.
All right, fair enough. And this week is when it gets good. I'm in my jersey. I hope you're seeing it here. World Cup Qualifiers.
I noticed you opted for
the 98.
The throwback jersey.
Yes.
And not the one that's been causing the controversy. The new jersey. But the new threads are out.
Right.
They've been officially launch now, and a kind of glitzy stuff that was happening, and people wearing the new threads and things. So the hope is that the Reggae Boys will reward everybody who's gone out and used their cards and their cash to buy
get the
that
new
new
jersey.
jersey
Right.
and qualify for the World Cup. Boys have New Caledonia is the first test, and I think that's what people are kind of overlooking. So Thursday, March 26th, right, in Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
the Reggae Boys will face New Caledonia in the Intercontinental Playoff.
Right.
But that is only the first step.
You're
If
right.
you beat New Caledonia, you then have to play the Democratic Republic of Congo,
Come
and you have to beat them as well to qualify
for the world.
for the World Cup. New
Well,
Caledonia, Oceania, they rely on defensive organization, set pieces, and keeping the scoreline respectable rather than controlling the game. That was their plan. I mean,
Yeah. And I think that will work in our favor. Jamaica will actually go into this one as favorites, and you can see it with the betting
massive
odds.
favorites.
They're
Massive
getting
favorites.
they're getting at the time of this recording, they're getting $1.06 to win the game. Not very enthusiastic, but New Caledonia though.
What are their
Jordan,
odds?
just guess. I want you to think of the wildest odds ever. Just guess.
I don't know. $31.
That's right. They're getting $31 to win and $9 to draw the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know still, but that $31 they look very attractive, but
Jordan,
I will not.
let's just say if New Caledonia wins, I won't be in sorrow in my pocket. We'll have a little something in there.
Let me tell you. You see, like when you wear your jersey, I'm a patriot. So I'm not even going to fathom a New Caledonia victory in this game. Much has been said, of course, about the squad that's been selected
Mhm.
for the Reggae Boys. Three, I would say, fan favorites left out of the squad. Leon Bailey returns, by the way, because he was injured, so that's a boost for the Reggae Boys. But Shamar Nicholson
Oh,
left out. Dejan Richards left
Out.
out. Kaheem Dixon left
Out.
out. In comes the likes of Efron Mason Clark, who has been playing well in the championship, in the second division of English football. So let's see what happens. I mean, it's not really, you talk about international football, you can't talk about it the way you talk about club football, because
No.
you don't have time
no, there's
to
not
gel as a
there's no
unit,
time.
really. The team, I think, got together on the 22nd of March, and the game is on the 26th. Plus, they have to travel in between. Plus, we're talking about Mexico, and Mexico is infamous for altitude.
Right. You have to get a
You have to get
climatized.
acclimatized to the conditions. There will be no time to get acclimatized. The only good thing is that you're not playing against Mexico.
Right.
So now New Caledonia also,
Has to
one would suspect has to get acclimatized. I don't know when their team will land in Mexico. If they've been there from 2 weeks ago trying to acclimatize, because their players are not playing in the English Premier League
No,
or
they're
La Liga
not.
or
They're
anything
not.
like that. So who knows? Maybe they were in Mexico for the last 4 weeks preparing for Jamaica. But come on, man, I can't sit here in good conscience and predict anything except a Reggae Boys
Victory, and they need to win convincingly as well.
Yeah.
It's not just about winning, because a 1-0 won't convince me that they're ready
Yeah.
for the next stage.
Yeah.
They have to do it convincingly, and they have to do rotation while they're doing it, because while we have the players, you know that this is not the hardest obstacle, but it's just the first one. So once we get past this, we
Yeah,
have a mountain to
I agree
climb.
it's going to be a big boost for confidence for them to win it convincingly. I agree with you that a 1-0 or even a 2-0 victory is not going to be the kind of confidence booster that they need, especially because you have to remember as well, the coach is now new.
Exactly.
It's Rudolph
Rough
Speed,
speed.
who is the interim coach, and has his assistant is Miguel Coley. He's not new to coaching Jamaican football, but has been away for a while and comes back now as the assistant. So you have new players introducing, you have a new coach, and you're playing in a neutral venue. You don't have your home support. You're playing at altitude. It's
Yeah, a lot of
some
factors.
crazy things.
A lot of factors to consider.
So you want a convincing win.
Another classic matchup though on the same Thursday. I think the punters are gonna love this one as well. Italy versus Northern Ireland. Yeah.
Italy can't afford to miss another World
No,
Cup.
they can't. Even the fans that are here in Jamaica are worried, because Italy doesn't have that fear factor anymore. like back in '98 coming up, where you know that Italy is a team to be reckoned with. Yeah, Northern Ireland actually is the underdog going in at this one, but on paper, I think they're fairly matched up with Italy.
Well, I don't necessarily agree. I think Italy. I mean, on paper, I think Italy should definitely, be favorites. In terms of you're looking at just players. Obviously, names don't play football, right?
True,
And that's the
true,
problem.
true.
That's been the problem for Italy. It's been getting it right, but is the pressure that this will put on them. So this is in the European qualifiers,
Right.
and of course, it's home and away.
And away. Right, Jordan. So Northern Ireland against Italy. Italy being the favorites to win. They're getting $1.30 to win. Northern Ireland is getting $10 to win the match. And a draw will pay out at $4.75. But remember, these are subjected to change.
Clearly. But the thing about it is that I think it shows that evidently Italy are overwhelming favorites, as they should be. The closer you get to the game, though, obviously, if things can change, you hear that a player might be out or so on and so forth, those odds will change. But Italy, though, must, I think, finally kind of get the monkey off their back in terms of this thing where, you can't be a big side, multiple World Cup winning side, man. Yeah, struggle to make the World Cup. So come on, man.
I'm not ruling out Northern Ireland, though. I'm just saying, you know my stance. I love the underdogs. More money in my pocket. So. Yeah. That $10 odds looking really good on my ticket.
And then now we have a big time friendly. And this is a friendly match that Jamaicans, I think, will love. Because, first thing, 99% of Jamaicans support Brazil. So
it's our second nature. That's second team. Can't go around it.
So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
And then Brazil playing France. Because everybody remember.
Speaking of 98.
I'm just about to say. Everybody remember what happened in that World Cup Final with Brazil and France, right?
Yeah.
That's decades ago now, and the man who played the finals and them belly big no one thing. But Brazil and France remain two top teams in the world, of course. Brazil obviously looking to kind of rekindle their real Brazilian glory. And when I saw Carlo Ancelotti's squad for the World Cup, and I said, boy, this is a squad of forwards.
So it's straight attacking.
That's an attacking squad. France has a lot more balance, and of course, recent history, World Cup history is in the favor of France. But this is a friendly match. Yeah. You wonder how much of the top players will kind of play the majority of this game.
Right. Because I don't see them playing the full 90 for sure.
Yeah, because remember, a lot of the players are still engaged in their competition domestically, for club, in European competition, so they're not gonna really want to. Although this is an international break, some players have already actually withdrawn because Saliba out for France, Gabriel out for Brazil.
Right.
Obviously 2 Arsenal players. And they've had tremendous workload, and so you come to understand that the odds: Brazil to win $2.80, a draw $3.40, France to win $2.33.
Yeah, so you can see that they're both somewhat equal in terms of who is expected to win. And truth be told, Jordan, France has Brazil's ticket.
Yeah,
they do. Yeah. So if I'm going off history, as much as I love the Samba boys, I may have to bet on France to bring home my ticket on this one.
Yeah, the odds, as you say, reflect France as a slight favourites, but also kind of rewarding France for their consistency. The more settled tactical structure, of course. But odds above $2 make it clear that this is far from a one-sided matchup. Brazil at $2.80 is, unusually long for a nation of Brazil's stature.
True.
But we understand what Brazil is going through now. It suggests uncertainty, I think, rather than doubt from the bookmakers. And they're respecting Brazil, but they're still questioning the current cohesion, given that they're still trying to work something out.
Yeah.
And Carlo Ancelotti is still trying to imprint his style on this Brazilian team. Could be very, very interesting, though. I think the draw at $3.40, that might be tempting.
That really does sound good. Given the fact that the nature of both teams, they're heavily talented, heavily cohesive. So I think it may be a fair match.
And then with nothing on the line.
And nothing on the
Yeah,
line.
they're not playing for a World Cup title here.
No.
So because this is a friendly, we might just turn out that way as a friendly.
Right.
You know, might be a draw.
Speaking of Brazil versus France, I want you to pay attention to this bet builder. So, Brazil versus France. France to win. Count with me, you know. France to win. The first half is a draw over 2.5 goals. How much do you think that odds is?
You have to tell me.
That's a $9 odds, bro. So if I bet $5,000 on that, guess how much I'm going home with?
45,000.
That's correct.
Oh, sorry, I'm never a good number. I'll take a while to calculate it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So guys, make sure that you wrote down that bet builder, and I'll do you one more. I'm gonna do another one for North Ireland against Italy. So I'm going to have Italy to win. Count with me same way. Over 3.5 goals, and Italy to win both halves.
How much does that pay?
That's a $5, $66 odds at this time of recording, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I bet a 10 grand on that, how much am I going home with?
Over 56,000.
That's correct. Some money in my pocket. And these are very, very safe bets in my regard. Yeah. So guys, pay attention. I gave you 2 hot tickets for the bet builder. Save them and go out and purchase.
Alright, so speaking about odds and all those things, you know we have to have the experts from Just Bet who give you the advice, the insights. You know, the little thing that you might not know, Sean. I know you know your thing and you do your bet builder and your thing. So I'll give the viewers, you know, all those insights they need and how they can maximize their winnings with Just Bet. And guess what? I have a new face this time because we're going to be talking about basketball.
Okay.
Right? So Chris have to take a bench this time. You know? Chris, some people are so happy with Chris right now. But guess what? We have Mark. And Mark this time now. Mark is the basketball guru.
Okay.
So Mark is going to tell us how, you know, you can structure your bets and everything, all the different options that you have for the hot games coming up in the NBA. So looking forward to that conversation with you and Mark.
Alright, punters. So we know that you love this segment, and this week we're doing something different. We're talking about basketball. And with us, the genius himself, Mark. Mark is just going to take us through how we can earn some extra cash on the NBA side. Welcome, Mark. How are you doing?
Blessings. All right. So I think one of the biggest questions we get most of the time is, how can you bet on basketball? So I'd like to tell the viewers, first of all, that every basketball game, we have over 200 bet types for every basketball game, whether it's on players, whether on the score, the first half, second half, the first quarter, the third, whatever it is, you can name it. How much points, how many blocks, how many assists. You know, we offer over 200 bets on every game.
Okay, that's good. All right, so if we should actually place a bet on this week's activities, I know that the hot take is Boston versus OKC.
Right.
Can you just guide us on how we should actually make a ticket for that one?
All right. So, interesting. The as you say, it's a hot game this week.
Right.
It's probably the preview of the NBA Finals. So one of the most popular bets we have now is bet makers.
Right.
And so I'm going to give you some tips on creating a bet maker bet for that particular game. SJ, the reigning MVP, is on a tier.
Right.
He has scored over 20 points in 131 games, breaking the record set by Will Chamberlain of 127. So he's already at 131. So I expect him to continue.
Okay.
So I expect him to score in excess of 25 points.
Okay, so that's one.
That's one. All right. I won't get into the score. I think the score is going to be fairly close.
Right.
I think the Thunder is going to win. Maybe a winning margin of maybe 5 points.
Okay, so a winning margin of 5 points.
Holmgren. I think Holmgren is going to score in excess of 11 points. And he's going to have at least one block.
So that's actually 4.
4. So that's a very good
ticket there. Okay, so you recommend those 4 things in the game.
Right.
All right. Punters, you heard it here from Mark. If you are smart, you would place $2,500 or more On that ticket, I go to gorush.justbetja.com, fill out the entry form for a chance to get the experience for the greatest show on earth in New York City on July 5th.
Sure. Hey, we're talking about money in your pocket. We're talking about airfare. We're talking about accommodation. We're talking about a world-class experience with Just Bet.
So there you have it. Don't waste no time. You can enter as much time as you want, get the tickets, and get to work.
All right, Shav. So always interesting to get all the advice from the experts. And as we say, Mark is a genius. So we don't expect nothing less. We know say Mark will give you all the information we need to know. But now it's time for us to be put on the spot. Just that challenge time, Shav. And you know that means that we are going to have to give our hot takes. We're going to have to give our predictions on some of the big matches coming up this week. So in the spirit of the basketball, let's continue with the basketball. And we're talking about the Boston Celtics versus the Oklahoma City Thunder game. I've already made my pick. I said it throughout the show. I think OKC goes into this game, takes it from Boston, boosts their chances of remaining the top seed in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree this time around, Jordan. I think that Boston Celtics will do it with the home court advantage. I think they'll win this one.
All right, let's see about that. New Caledonia versus Jamaica. You know, say you can't say nothing else. You only can predict one way this time.
Crazy.
But I'm gonna say Jamaica wins this one quite comfortably. I'm gonna say the Reggae Boys pull off a 3-0 win over New Caledonia.
Yes, and I'm going to agree with you. They better pull off a 3-0 win against New Caledonia. So Reggae Boys all the way, Jordan.
Reggae Boys all the way. Italy versus Northern Ireland. This one, as we said, can be tricky.
Mm-hmm.
We know the pressure that Italy is facing. And the Italian media are really normal neither. So we know what kind of pressure they'll be putting on them. But I don't see Northern Ireland getting the better of them. I'm going to say Italy wins this one. Should go with a scoreline. I'm going to say it's going to be tough, And then 2-1 Italy.
2-1?
Yeah.
Well, for my prediction, I'll say Italy will win 3-0.
Brazil versus France. I think this is the hardest one to predict only because it's a friendly. So, as I said, they're not playing for anything.
Right.
Except pride, really. Maybe bragging rights. But it's not the World Cup. It's not a qualifying game. It's not anything like that. It's just basically, I guess, revenge. Grudge match. Brazil never wants to lose to France, and France never wants to lose to Brazil.
Never.
But because they're friendly, you don't know if the coaches are going to keep on all the top players for the full 90. You don't suspect that. Plus,
No.
as we know that both players are already missing some of their both teams are already missing some of their top players, Shav.
Right.
So that could play a factor into the result as well. Having said that, I'm going to give the edge to France. And since it's a friendly, I'm going to say it's going to be pretty high scoring. So I don't think either team will, extend too much effort defensively. So 3-2 in favor of France.
I like that scoreline, Jordan, because I was going to say the same thing, but Brazil will win 3-2.
All right. We'll see how that goes. Because I hope it's entertaining, though. But I also hope it doesn't, kind of drag just because there is
nothing on the line.
Nothing on the line.
Yeah, I agree.
I hope so.
But I think it should be a good one.
So, next week again, we will be back because that's a wrap for this week's episode of Just Bet TV. And of course, we're always telling this is your go-to spot for sports betting insights, match previews, and fan-fueled debates. By the way, Sam, let me ask you about your ticket, because we did a little challenge last week, I gave you a little challenge. I can see already that you know what to talk about.
No.
What about your ticket, Sam? Tell the people.
My ticket burst by one corner, people. One corner.
And that was in the Arsenal.
And that was in the Arsenal versus City game. Because, my bet builder tickets, Jordan, I have to have at least 4 objects on it. And the corner did me dirty this time around.
Because you said over 6, right?
Yes, over 6, and I got 6
and
corners.
6 corners. And then I think you were at 6 with over half an hour
to play the game.
There was so much time left in the game. And Arsenal, of course, a team that has been so good from corners. In fact, Arsenal must win a corner. Right?
Yeah.
Boy,
So
you can't knock.
no.
All right, people. So that's a wrap. Remember to be smart and to stay informed. And if you have a hot take or a winning bet, drop it in the comments and we might feature you next week. Until next time, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Shav.
And this has been Just Bet TV, your game, your passion. Next week, people.